All right, we're up, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. I am Michael D'Angelo, joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz. Great to see you, my friend, coming off of we'll call it the post Royal Rumble, Raw and Smackdown. It was an interesting week, wasn't it?
I mean, it really was. It was a lot. A lot happened in such a short amount of time. So,
Yeah.
yeah, plans have changed. A lot has been going on. Folks have been in and out. I had to scoot in here to kind of get into the scoop because it's just been an interesting one. So, I mean, we won't delay. Let's get on into Raw here. Just a few high notes here, high touch notes that I kind of wanted to touch base on was they started with the CM Punk promo, which we all heard the news after the Rumble. You know,
Yeah.
CM Punk tore his tricep. That was true. So he did give a promo about it. And it was interesting because before he lost the Royal Rumble match, we talked about how he was looking towards kind of like a heel turn with
Yeah.
I didn't wait all this time to lose to Dusty's kid or whatever, to now he's trying to turn a face narrative now. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it's probably more of the backstage going on. So he's trying to, talked about, a friend of his that had cancer, how strong he was, he's scared, and all that stuff. Honestly, a great promo. Hate or love Punk. That was an amazing promo talking about he's gonna come back stronger and all that good stuff. And then Drew interrupts to be a jerk and talking about how he's so happy that he slept like a baby when he found out he tore his tricep. And he what did he say? He said he prayed for it and it happened,
Yeah.
so he's so glad
he,
that
he
he
said,
did.
he said, I'm not a spiritual man, but I prayed this would happen, and it did. And when he said that, I laughed out loud. Like, I
Yeah,
actually was like, that was too good. It was so
that
silly,
was great.
but it was
Yeah.
so good at the same time.
Yeah, it was. Only somebody like Drew McIntyre could have made that, just go well. So, yeah, the little brawl going on. Sami Zayn for the save, of course. Sets up a match
Of
for
course.
later in the evening, main event. Of course, that's what it's going to be. We'll talk to that here in a bit. Other bigger ticket items. We can go into details later, but bigger ticket items that I noticed. Right after we had the first hour of Raw, ad free, which was great, commercial
Yeah,
free.
love that
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
More
and of
more ad
course,
free hours of Raw if we
yes.
can.
And then they put on Judgment Day versus DIY for the tag titles. And I mean, I couldn't have been happier with the match. It was a great match.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it went extremely well. In my opinion, that was probably match of the night just to start off and get Raw hot. I think it was great. So
Yeah,
you had a good promo lead into a great match. You had the double submission attempt by DIY, which was cool to see. A good, nice visual in the middle of the ring. And
yeah,
yeah, of course, Judgment Day overcame, retained their titles. And then after the end, it was kind of interesting because Damian Priest calls out our truth and more Judgment Day comical stuff until he gets jumped by all of them to be saved
yeah,
by not only then the Miz, which in my
yeah.
opinion is now going to set up a nice little program for WrestleMania. I think we're going to see a tag title match between Judgment Day and the Awesome Truth. So I'm looking forward to that. That would be a good, interesting match. I'd like to see the dynamic that's going to happen, the fallout, right, of our truth officially being kicked out of the Judgment Day. Well, not really kicked out, being told he never really was a part of the
Yeah.
Judgment Day. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays off in that. That'll be good. The other, I mean, you had some other matches. Gunther and Kofi were good. The only two that I want to talk about, of course, Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn. We'll talk about that later. But the only two pieces that I really want to touch base on here were Seth's promo. So we talked about it was a night of promos, but normally I don't like a lot of promos on TV, but these made sense because
Yeah.
WWE backstage had to say, okay, we had it all in the cards here. Cody was going after Roman, and Punk was going to get Seth, and those were going to be our championship matches. Well, now Punk's hurt, so you need an opponent for Seth. You need an opponent for Seth. You need an opponent for Roman. So we'll get into Roman on SmackDown, but you know, Cody comes out and cuts this promo on how he's going to go for Roman. That's not changing. But then Seth comes out and just gives such a great, how can you say it? The way he explained the meaning of that title, saying that title is the people's title in a sense, right? And saying that it's the Dusty's title, the Dusty type title versus the Hollywood title that Roman holds, which if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because it's like there's this world heavyweight title that Seth Rollins has kind of been, dumped on really in terms of like not really much meaning to it. But Seth, to his point, he defends it every single night. He's main eventing all the dark matches, not the dark matches. I'm sorry, all the what are the WWE live events and all that, and he's defending the title constantly and out there fighting. And Roman isn't doing anything with it, so they're pretty much calling it the part-timer title that Roman has, which now makes more sense for Cody to go. I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I would love to see Cody dethrone Roman, but he kind of made a good point on that and talking about that this is the title you want because you represent your dad, the blue collar son of a plumber, all that good stuff. This is that title. This is the working man's title. You don't want that Hollywood title. It was enough for Cody to say he'll think about it and make an announcement on SmackDown, which we can get to. Bayley came out to try and cut another promo about who she was going to go after Rhea. And then Rhea interrupts her and tells her, that's not a good idea. And then she gets jumped and destroyed by Nia Jax, which was to my surprise, because I thought Nia was done and Jade Cargill was in, but Nia just destroys Rhea and then goes up to Bayley and is like, if you pick her, you're going to face me. And Bayley was like all scared, and you can kind of see the eyes and smirks from Damage Control in the background, which kind of plays into more. So Bayley says, no, I'm going to make my announcement on SmackDown. But overall, I think the promos were really, really strong in this one. I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of promos during so many promos and lengthy promos, because there weren't that many matches. There was a lot of promos, but they were good. And I was okay with it. I was totally fine with it just because they had to make up the storyline, not make up, but make up for the storyline change, right? They had to really realign everything, and you can kind of get the feel of where everything's going. And I thought that was very smart on their part, rather than just throw it together all clunky like in the past. I give them credit to that. Like, they put a great speed. They had great guys on the mics that just did their thing. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It was very promo heavy, like for most of the show, but they were all necessary. So it wasn't like, oh, they're doing promos for the sake of promos. Like they had to do the CM Punk one because of his injury. They had to do the Seth Rollins one because they were pivoting. And I think so I'll say this. I think they did the best they could with the Seth Rollins. Hey, this is the real title. This is the working man's title. And I get why they were doing that, because it was obvious at that point. I was like, oh no, like they are going to pivot to The Rock, and which we'll get to that later. But it became very obvious that was going to be, all right, we're moving you over, and it's going to be Rollins and Rhodes, and then we're going to do The Rock and Roman Reigns. And they telegraphed it at that point. And so I got where they were trying to add this legitimacy to it.
Right.
But I still wasn't buying it, because as all that was happening, I was like, this doesn't finish Cody's story.
No.
Like, the WWE Championship is the championship. Like, you can talk this one up all you want to. There were moments when the crowd was like behind Seth Rollins the whole time, and they're like cheering everything he's saying, and then he goes, my title is the title. And even the crowd was like, well. Like, there was one point when he said that, and the crowd got like, kind of was like, yeah, baby. And it's like, we know it's not. And I appreciate, though, it's like, hey, we got to pivot and try to sell this. And I think that was the one thing that also was kind of weird for me, was that I've never seen a champion go to a challenger and try and sell the challenger on why they should fight them. Like, it was so strange, but I know they got backed into this corner of how are we going to do the storytelling with this now. So I was fine with it. It was just like, oh, I don't want to see this, and we'll get to that part later on SmackDown. Also the CM Punk promo, I thought, as much as I like to rag on CM Punk, that was the best promo of the night by far. And you're absolutely right, that he was back to being full on face, where he's like shouting out Tampa Bay and like doing all that, like really hamming it up. And then I did like when he talked about his friend that had cancer. He talked about his friend who was a firefighter, and that was very meaningful, and that was very nice. And so I was kind of like, hey, this CM Punk's great at promos, and this was some of his best promo work. But yeah, that was probably one of the better moments with CM Punk's, I thought, of all the promos. And then I just had a hard time with the Seth Rollins one, because he was selling, and I wasn't necessarily buying everything that he was saying, but he gets an A for effort.
Right. And I mean, it's a valid point, right? I mean, they were backed into that corner. so to speak, and they had to make it a legitimate, push. And it's odd to see Seth come out and be like, no, pick me, pick me, pick me. But again, I think of the people they had in at their disposal, should you say, to deliver these promos, they had the right people. Because I think anyone else probably could not have let that happen. Like, there's nobody like CM Punk that could have delivered a promo like that. Seth and even Cody. Cody's one hell of a promo as well. So that's cool to see. I mean, luckily for WWE, the people that were involved are great talkers on the mic. So they're able to kind of spin that narrative for them. Probably needed minimal direction. I have a feeling most of that was just not scripted, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I was torn because, like I told you before, I feel the only person that should take the title off of Roman is Cody. I've always felt that, and it's a letdown. It's a disappointment. I'm a Rock fan, so I'm kind of like, cool, yay, but I see what they're trying to do, and I see that they're part-timers title. This is the real title. Like, they're trying to kind of spin on how the title is, but to your point, it's the WWE Championship. It's literally named the WWE Championship. Like, it's
yeah,
they're gonna have to
you can't get away from it.
You're
You're not going to convince anybody that that's not the title that everyone wants. Right. And it is what it is, though. And and we'll talk more about kind of how it went down.
It's understandable.
As soon as it happened, I was like, this is where they're going. Like, this is the only way that they're going to be able to get there.
They had to.
Well, you talked about the folks that are all good on promos. Everyone that was lined up was great on promos. Who wasn't, or who's not, at least in my opinion, not great on promos, not great on the microphone. Pat McAfee is now the commentator for Raw.
Oh, yeah. Well, football season's over, so he needs something to do.
He's got to have something to
the energy.
Time.
I like the energy that he brings. He's over the top.
Everything about him.
I get it.
Well, my thing was, too, I felt like he seemed very unprepared. Like, there was a lot of moments where he stumbled through things and he would have kind of a half of a thought and then he would stop saying that. Like, during the Judgment... So, match of the night, I agreed with you. Judgment Day and DIY was fantastic. It was great. Yeah. During that match, he was like talking about Finn Balor, and he goes, Finn Balor, freak athlete, runs fast, he's from Ireland. And it was like, okay, like, why are you doing like his bio?
Somebody read the bio.
And then he goes, and it was just like, here's Pat McAfee trying to think of something to say. And then he goes, he took a swing like baseball. I mean, we're in Tampa Bay. I mean, they have the Lightning, but also the Rays. And it was like, Pat, shut up. It's like he would just start rambling about things. And there was one moment where there was like a bunch of combinations happening, and I think Michael Cole asked him about like the offense, and he goes, he can withstand plethora, but still, man, like it was just like random thoughts that were just like the whole time.
Yeah,
and that's
he's out of practice. Yeah,
and then there were times also he's way out of practice, and his volume would go up and down to where you couldn't hear. He was kind of mumbling. You couldn't really hear what he was saying, and I was bummed out because I liked Wade Barrett, and we got Wade Barrett on SmackDown now, which is Wade Barrett and Corey Graves are now the SmackDown team. I was worried about that. We'll get to that when we get to SmackDown.
Yeah, we'll talk
because I'm like,
that.
they're both color guys.
Commentators. Yeah, they're not play-by-play.
And now it's like, now you're going to make one of them play-by-play, which Corey Graves is doing play-by-play now. And I liked it, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. It was, so that was the other interesting news. And then going back to R-Truth, I kind of asked something though. So R-Truth, obviously this was coming with Judgment Day turning on him and beating him up. Right. How come only The Miz came down to help R-Truth? Like, this is what I didn't get about this, because I'm like, R-Truth has been shown to be universally loved by the locker room. Everyone cares about him. Judgment Day's got a beef with everybody. So when this went down, I was outraged because I love R-Truth, and you knew it was coming. But as soon as JD McDonough hit him from behind, I was like, "Oh, JD, I want to kill him!" And like, it really got me. Like, I haven't felt that way since I was a kid watching wrestling, where I was emotionally invested, where it made me mad. It was like when Sting got betrayed by the Four Horsemen when Ric Flair attacked him. It was Surfer Dude Sting, and I remember as a kid, I was like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I had that little bit of a moment as a grown man going, they should be beating up R-Truth. And then Miz is the only one that, like, where were the Creed brothers? Where are the Creed brothers, by the way? Because they were coming out doing saves for everybody. They were feuding with Judgment Day. As soon as they lost that title match, they disappeared. So I'd like to see them come back, but really the Miz is the only friend that R-Truth has in the locker room, or there's nobody with beef enough for the Judgment Day to go out there and try and help out with the save too. So that was the other sidebar that I was a little confused on.
I get you, and I feel like the only reason for that is just more to push the narrative of wanting to justify the reason for a tag team title match. That's why I kind of feel that it's going to turn into a tag team title match, only because
it has.
You had the tag team element to it, right? I mean, he was outnumbered, so maybe it's going to be a tag team title match, but they're going to do some kind of I feel it's going to be a stipulation match to kind of even the odds, because you still got Tom and Nick. And you still got JD McDonough. But, I mean, Dom and JD, they're going to be interfering, obviously. So I'm curious to see. I don't think Miz and Truth would win the title, although I think that would be the move to make, is to have the Awesome Truth hold the tag titles. I think that'd be good. And maybe in like a Pit of Fury, that's where Damian Priest, cashes in his Money in the Bank so they can reclaim their tag titles again. Because there's, especially now more than ever, there's no way he's cashing in on anybody soon. But
cash in a WrestleMania, cash in on The Rock, so The Rock beats Roman Reigns, and then Damian Priest
it loses to Damian Priest.
That would be great. I would absolutely love that if that's how it goes down. The Rock at 51 years old, he's like hoisting the belt, and then Damian Priest music hits, and it's like, oh no, it's up past The Rock's bedtime, and they run down there and beat him up, and then that's it. That would be fantastic. Please, WWE, if this is where you're going, because it seems like you're going in that direction, just go for it. Just throw a curveball out there.
I think also it was nice seeing, one thing I forgot to mention, it was nice seeing Jey Uso getting a win on his own in a solo match against a formidable opponent in Bronson Reed. That was good to see.
Bronson Reed.
They're really talking about he's in the right direction for his first solo title. So notice how it's no longer the champion, the main title, a solo title. Yeah. So is he going to go after Gunther? Is he going to go after, maybe he's going to go up against your favorite over there, the Maverick himself, Logan Paul, and take that U.S. title off of him.
One can only hope. He's looking for a challenger. If you saw SmackDown,
he is.
He's got to find one. Yeah.
Jey Uso. But yeah, so that was Raw in a nutshell.
I'll take it.
It was all right. Yeah, I would too. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say this show was actually, the promos put this show over in my books. So I would say I probably rated this one. I probably rated this one like a B plus, A minus, for sure. The only thing I didn't like about it, honestly, was the Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark versus Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. Like, that was just kind of like a throwaway, whatever match.
That was my dud of the night too.
Yeah, worst even like Shayna Baszler just kind of like shrugged it off and just like whatever. I'm like, like they could do so much with the women's tag division and they just don't. But yeah, that was it. Gunther and Kofi was good, but then again, the Kabuki Warriors just, handling Tegan Knox and Natalia. Which why are they still getting tag title matches?
Well, because it was a non-title match, right? Because I was watching it, and I'm like,
that's right. You're right. You're right. That's my fault. Yeah.
And then at the end, they just said, "You're winners, the champions," and I was like, why are they getting a non-title? Like, they lose every single week, so why would they get a match at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a little strange, and then they kind of. There was like a weird moment where they tried to kind of play off because Natalia was trying to get a tag. It's like, just break them up already. Like, they keep doing these little teasers that Tegan and Talia are not on the same page. So that was kind of a weak match. The Piper Niven, Shayna Baszler the tag match was a weak match.
Yeah.
The main event was Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre, which was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which okay. So that's where I didn't understand the controversy, because they're like, it was an inadvertent low blow when he was going for the hell of a kick. And so he basically put his balls in his face, and he headbutted him, or I guess hit his hands.
The Glasgow kiss.
And
that's why they call it that.
The Glasgow kiss to the nether region. But when it happened, I was like, this is kind of weird and goofy, because he gets the pin. He hits the Claymore and gets the pin. And then Michael Cole is the whole time going, do you think that was intentional? Well, it looked like it was inadvertent, and I'm like, who cares if it wasn't or wasn't?
Yeah,
This
it's
guy has
irrelevant.
been intentionally injuring people every single week,
Mm-hmm.
so it may as well be. It's not like, oh, I could. Do you think he would have done that on purpose? Well,
Yeah,
totally. That's like his whole gimmick.
yeah,
So to make it be like, oh, this one was just accidental is a little strange.
I agree.
So yeah, the match list was a little weird,
Yeah.
but the promos made it. You're right.
Like if it were me, and again, I'm not a booker, but if I were, I probably would have put the Cody Rhodes Seth Rollins promo at the end,
Yeah.
just because that would have been a nice cliffhanger to close on, and you could have had Michael Cole say like, "Well, we hear Cody's answer on Friday," and then close out the show. That's it, easy, clean, done.
Yeah.
You could have had the Drew
Easy peasy.
maybe the Drew and Sami Zayn match switch with the Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, because honestly, I mean, who didn't think who thought Drew was gonna lose to Sami? I love Sami
Yeah.
Zayn.
It
I
was
think
obvious
he's
he was
awesome.
going to be the same thing.
I feel like Sami Zayn is amazing. I love Sami, but the way they're trying to build and push Drew as this bully, I'm worried, and I don't want Sami Zayn to be the one that is getting bullied by Drew just because they have nothing for him to do. I mean, if that's the case, then put him with Jay and let them work together. Then they were great together at Bloodlines in the Bloodline. So, but yeah, that's why I kind of gave it a B plus A minus, just because those were it just kind of threw off a little bit from the swing of things. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything else. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, Kofi Gunther was great. I liked it. Everything else was good, but it's just that piece. Really good. But yeah, that's just how I felt.
Yeah, no, same here. I think it's about a B show. Match of the night, obviously, we agreed. DIY versus Judgment Day.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's
a
good
great
one.
match.
Rest of the matches were a little so-so. Mostly it was a promo night.
Yeah.
So that moves us into SmackDown, and let me tell you something. This was kind of a promo night and kind of a funky match night too, is the way I'll put it. Corey Graves and Wade Barrett are on SmackDown commentary now.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed the pairing. I thought Corey Graves did really well making that switch. I liked it way better than I liked the Raw announced team at this point. So it was a good first run for them. I thought they had good chemistry together.
I really think they did. I've always been a fan of Corey Graves. I was actually telling my wife the other day that I feel for Corey Graves. I mean, he had a lot of potential in NXT until he got hurt. Well, not even NXT. Was it still? Yeah, it was NXT at the time. Yeah, until he got hurt and he couldn't wrestle anymore. And I'm so thankful that Vince gave him that opportunity to, commentate. And he does an amazing job. He's an amazing talker. He's a good personality. And I wasn't sure how that was going to work, because typically, Wade Barrett and Corey Graves are the heel color commentators. But he did a good job being the play-by-play guy. He kind of eased into it very comfortably. So it looks like he was probably paying attention and taking notes, for sure, from Michael Cole. So that was cool to see.
Yeah,
I was happy with that change. I feel like them together, it's going to do really well. I
think so too. And I like Corey Graves a lot, and I think he's spent so long working with Michael Cole that he's picked up a lot of good habits from him. It'll be interesting to see how it kind of felt like they didn't really do a face heel dynamic. They were just kind of themselves. They did their characters at this point, and they were just kind of neutral the whole time, which I like that one too. This one opened up with a promo from Logan Paul, which sadly was not the most disappointing thing to happen on a SmackDown. No. Which for me, Logan Paul is usually the worst thing about SmackDown. He was actually not the worst thing that happened on SmackDown, from my opinion. But we had Logan Paul out there, trash talking KO. First match, KO versus Austin Theory. Good match. KO ends up picking up the victory with the brass knuckles, using heel tactics again, picking up the brass knuckles again. This time he didn't get caught, so this time he was more devious about it. So don't know how I feel about all that, but that was the opening match. Second match was the Fatal 4-Way Tag match, which was a barn burner. This was just beautiful. Greatness on every single, like the piece de resistance. It was so good. If you haven't seen this one, go back and watch it. There is a ton of great spots in it. Too many to count. It was freaking awesome is the best way to put it. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate picked up the win. This is part of a tag team tournament to determine number one contenders. Apparently, that's kind of how they said, hey, we're going to the break and we'll come back and tell you. So they advance in this tournament. They're going to face the winner of another fatal four-way tornado tag match to determine a number one contender. So, but this one was absolutely awesome.
It was a great match.
Right before it, there was a very weird Santos Escobar telenovela promo.
Oh my God, that was so good. I loved it. I loved it.
I was like, this is kind of weird and cringy. And apparently, Santos Escobar is Vin Diesel now because he's all about family. And it was just like it's a very Vin Diesel-y promo. So please definitely go back and watch that one. I'm sure you can find it online. It was interesting. I will just say that. But you loved it, Big D, so that's good.
I did because you know what? Knowing that, I always tell people that Santos Escobar used to be Hijo de Fantasma because his dad was a luchador named El Fantasma. And so that's why he came up with El Legado de Fantasma because it's, from his father and carrying on that tradition. He took off the mask and now he wrestles without the mask. So he was kind of like bringing the table in now. And now this is you are now who sits at the table. And why I liked it is because now you have, you have Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, which they just changed him to Berto, which I love. It's so much easier to say. But I didn't like the hokey Latin lover gimmick that they had, going on. I was not a fan of it. I thought it was hokey. It was corny. They did it well. They did their best, right? But seeing them in that serious heel dynamic was great. And Electra Lopez también, her too, she came out and I don't know. I was just seeing it all come together. It kind of reminded me of Lucha Underground a little bit.
It did. It kind of gave like that little. Like I've seen this before.
Because unlike the party tag team of Cade and Katana Chance and Caden Carter, they didn't have a makeshift restaurant. They're actually at a restaurant.
Yeah, they were actually at a restaurant. That's why I was like, hey, they really went on location for this one. This wasn't backstage.
But see how much of a difference it makes. Cool. Details matter.
Production value. What do you think, WWE? Production value. Come on, you guys all have the cash to do it. You can rent a restaurant. You can rent out a club for 5 minutes to shoot your promo. It's cool.
But yeah, sorry, I'll let you continue.
Well, then after that, no, you're good. You're good. After that, we went into the Damage Control Bayley's decision, which right before Bayley's decision, there was like a Friday night Full House moment where Damage Control was talking bad about Bayley and then switched to English. which switched to English so that Bayley would know what they were saying and we would know. Which I'm like, why would you just change to English? Because you're all speaking Japanese. And they switch and they're like, Bayley's done. Ha ha ha. And then Bayley standing in the background with her arms folded and like all a sad face. And then you almost hear like the da na 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 as it goes to commercial break. It was like it was such like something you would see on a 90s sitcom. And then when they come back, they go down to the ring, and then Bayley all of a sudden is like, by the way, I speak Japanese. I know what you've been saying for months. I'm like, well, then why don't you have that little moment in the locker room? Like if you've known this for months, like, what was the point of that? Like, maybe just lead with that. Maybe have her come out and start cutting a promo in Japanese and go, by the way, I know you guys were talking about me. You didn't need the setup. So it would have been hilarious. But instead, they did what they've essentially been telegraphing this entire time. Damage Control is broken up. They jumped Bayley from behind. Bayley fought everyone off and said, you know what, Io Sky, I'm coming for you at WrestleMania. And then it was funny because I could hear somebody on camera yelling, Bayley, go home. Bayley, go home. Bayley, go home. Did you hear that? Yeah. When it was going during the show? Yeah. Right at the end, they were basically like, hey, we gotta end this segment. And somebody was yelling it so loud, like, Bayley, go home. Bayley, go home. Bayley, go home. Yeah. And then she goes, yeah, and about WrestleMania, like, I'm coming for you, this guy, or something like that. And it was like, guys, I know she knows she's got to wrap the promo, but it was a little funny that it got caught on audio. Off.
I think it just ran longer than they expected.
Yeah, her trying to get the pipe to attack them went a little too long. So that predictably is what ended up happening. Right after that was a match, I guess. I'll say I guess. With Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament, because they all come down like they're going to have a match. Then they all kind of brawl for a few seconds in the ring. The bell never rings.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley end up clearing the ring.
Right.
And they all walk off. And that's it. Like,
well, yeah, B-Fab
this
returned.
was like the most... Yeah, B-Fab
returned
returned to even the score.
Yeah, to get Scarlett.
To even the score, so there's girls to attack each other. So she could attack Scarlett. But it was just one of those things where I was like, hey, why don't they start the match? Like, they're gone? They're done? All right, that match is over. Like, that automatically was dud of the night for me because it never got going. It never got started. And then they all just walked off like that was a normal thing to do at the match. It's like, we're just not going to, we'll do this later. And they just like just headed out just because B-Fab came out. Like, I guess that was it. It's like, oh, we can't do this now.
Darn, Scarlett can't interfere.
It was very weird, and especially in a night that doesn't have that many matches, because after that was the main event, which was Tiffany Stratton versus Meechin in the strangest main event that I think I've ever seen on SmackDown, because they were like, this is the last match of the night. And I'm like, the main event is Tiffany Stratton making her SmackDown debut against Meechin in what was a fine match. Like, she made her debut on SmackDown. It was fine. It was good. Why is it the main event? Because it wasn't the main event, because the main event was the promo afterwards. That was really the main event. And so they're like, let's do this last match. Let's move on. I was bummed because we were post Royal Rumble and I was waiting patiently for Jade Cargill. And I'm like, she wasn't on Raw. Maybe she'll be on. She was on SmackDown for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
For 2 seconds, walking into Nick Aldis's office going like, hey, what's going on? To talk about signing a contract. Probably sign a contract. I'm assuming she'll be on SmackDown. But that was it. That was all the Jade Cargill that we got, and we got to wait till next week, and which was a bummer for me. And then the actual main event, which was Cody Rhodes coming. Well, it was Roman Reigns coming down first to run down Seth Rollins' comments, which made me laugh too, because everything that he said about Seth Rollins was what I was thinking when Seth Rollins was cutting the promo. So I was like, well done, Roman. And
you took note. Paul Heyman did
that. Paul Heyman tab. I was like, this is brilliant. And so Roman Reigns actually cut a pretty good promo. And then Cody Rhodes comes down in where he looked like he was going to his execution. And it was just like, he gets out there and he's doing what he needs to do and what he's supposed to do, and talking about how, he wants to fight Roman. This is what he wants to do, and it's not over between the two of them. But it's not going to happen at WrestleMania because he's been talking to some people, and one of the people that he's been talking to knows him really well. And then The Rock's music hits, and of course everybody loses their mind because it's The Rock. So they all lost their mind. The crowd went buck wild. I mean, you got to. If I was there, I would have lost my mind if The Rock walked out. But he goes down, and then he does this weird, like, shake hand, like, lock hands, bro hug, whispers to Cody, I stole your spot at WrestleMania. And then Cody's like, smirks, like, I know you did, you son of a gun.
No, he said,
and then
he said,
like,
I just took your spot. Get out of my damn ring. And then
get out of my damn ring, jabroni. And then the Cody Rhodes like, I'll see you in hell. And then heads off so that Rock and Roman can face off at WrestleMania. And this say absolutely for me nothing. Just and they just stared at each other, and then the camera went off, and I guess they made out afterwards. I don't know. Their faces were like an inch away from each other, and then the camera went to black. I don't know what happened, but it was just one of those things where you could see it coming from Raw. You knew that they were pivoting already. Yeah. For me, it feels like I understand why they're doing it, but it does nullify everything that happened at WrestleMania. Like, what was the point of Cody winning 2 years in a row now if he's now the bridesmaid again? He's getting bumped to the back of the line. He now he's going to go take the consolation prize, which is go wrestle Seth Rollins. Who knows how good his knee is, and are they going to take the title off of him and put it on Cody Rhodes? They will. They probably will. But that's not really him finishing his story. No, I don't care how you package it. And we're going to see a 51-year-old The Rock face off against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And I'm like, okay, well, what is that going to be? Is this going to be, WrestleMania 18, Hogan versus The Rock? And except he's now in the role of Hogan and he's going to lose? and he's going to put Roman Reigns over because that's the right thing to do. For some reason, I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like he's going to win, and you're going to have 51-year-old Rock has the title now as a part-timer. I just get the sneaky suspicion that they'd be like, hey, everybody, I had to come back to beat Roman Reigns because nobody else here could do it. And then that's going to be that. And I'm like, you won't give LA Knight a chance, but you're going to have The Rock come out and get the WrestleMania spot and bump past everybody. And then the other thing, too, is we just saw Randy Orton come back from an 18-month layoff. And the first thing out of Roman Reigns' mouth is, what, you think you can just walk in here and get a title shot? You're at the back of the line, buddy. Why can't he just say that to The Rock? When it's like, hey, I'm stepping aside for this guy. It's like, well, Rock hasn't earned anything, Cody, so you're at the back of the line. I hope he does that. I hope he comes out next week and says, we're going to start your gauntlet of matches before we WrestleMania to see if you even qualify for this. But I'm sure that won't happen because we don't like to be consistent with things here on SmackDown. But that was my feelings on it. Big D, I know you must feel a little bit differently about, well, maybe not completely differently, but how do you feel about this?
So, I mean, talking about the Rock and Roman Reigns, I mean, I had said before, I have a feeling that would have been, if it's not Cody, it's probably going to be The Rock. Is it the right move to make? Probably not. And I think they lucked out in a sense that Rock is now, he's now a board member for TKO, which is the entity that pretty much runs WWE now. So he's going to be around a lot more from what it sounds like in terms from a business perspective on the back end, right? So I guess they figured, but in the defense of it being a part-time title, it already is anyway with Roman because he rarely defends the title. He's rarely on TV, and if he is, he's sitting on a couch. So I mean, how much of a difference would it really be? But personally, I feel the right thing to do would be Rock puts Roman over and lets Roman get one out, right? Solidify Roman as like the head of the table. Cody's going to beat Seth. That's probably part of the bargaining agreement. Triple H was like, hey, we got to switch it. You'll win this title. Don't sweat it. It's yours. Right thing to do would then be Cody to tell Rock, I gave you my opportunity. Now, title unification match. And let's just have one title. Yeah. That would be the way to go, I feel. And you build that to like SummerSlam. You know what I mean? So, because The Rock, he's busy. So maybe to SummerSlam. I would doubt you push that all the way to WrestleMania. You do it to SummerSlam. And you just have one title. And Cody's cool to travel both shows. I mean, he'll do it. Not that Roman wasn't, but I think the way they were pushing Roman's character, it made sense, right? Being the head of the table. And I'm not saying he's ran his course as champion by any means. I actually enjoy this version of Roman more than I ever have, aside from his time in the Shield. But he had really like a non-speaking role. He was more like the enforcer in the Shield, right? You had Seth and Dean. Dean was really the mouthpiece of the three, and did an amazing job. But I feel that I like Roman as a heel. I've always said Roman should have been a heel, and I love that he's a heel. I just think that.
I thought they waited way too long to turn him. Yeah. They waited way too long to turn him heel. They were trying to just knock it down everyone's throat that he's a face and you should love him and you should adore him. And as soon as they made that change and they put him with Paul Heyman and they steered into it, I was like, happy. Thank God, this is way overdue. Yeah,
it's been the best thing on SmackDown, honestly. The whole Bloodline
it has.
Storyline has been amazing. But I think the right thing to do, again, Rock put Roman over and maybe at SummerSlam have a title unification match and let Cody finish his story. I feel that would be the best thing to do.
It would be.
It'd be a much bigger deal if Cody can unify the titles and you just have one championship and that's it, So that's the way I feel about it. The rest of SmackDown, I enjoyed the the 4-way tag team match was my absolute favorite. I agree. That was match of the night. Good. That was so great, so good. Lots of great moves, lots of great pieces in there. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates, like I said, those two are going to go for a title run, and I would not be disappointed if they took the titles off of Judgment Day. I really wouldn't. I think that would be a good, solid move for Pete Dunne. He's earned it, poor guy. And Tyler Bate looks like the crowd's finally coming around to him, and his style of wrestling. It's a little different, right?
They're warming up to him.
Yeah. So that was cool. Bayley's turn on her, that was interesting.
The crowd was behind. The crowd was really hot for Bayley.
I love Bayley. Don't get me wrong. I love her. I think she's awesome. I think everything she's doing is great, and I think it's she's overdue for her turn again. I think for the longest time the titles have been cycled between Charlotte, Becky, Charlotte, Becky, Charlotte, Becky, Bianca, Charlotte, Becky, Bianca. Like, it's about time you give it back to Bayley. I think Bayley's always been underutilized, and I'm happy to see her up front again to beat Io Sky. I say Bayley takes that title and wins it for sure.
I think so too.
I mean, and then everything else was kind of Tiffany Stratton. I'm glad she made her debut. She beat Michin, which is good, but again, not good for Michin, but good for Tiffany Stratton. One thing I did want to note that I was very happy to see was Braun Breaker getting signed to SmackDown. That was great.
Yeah. Well, kind of, right? Like he was wasn't he about to sign? And there was like,
I thought he did.
Hold on, not till I talk to you about it. Did he? I have to. I think my kid ran in the room at the time, and I was trying to like help her with something.
That's a good question.
But I remember he was like holding the folder, and then he was like, well, "Remember not to sign it until we've had a chance to talk." But I can't. I think
you're right.
Actually,
I think you're right. I was looking at my notes. I don't. I think you're right.
Well, either way, he's coming up to the main roster.
He is long overdue. I thought that I'm happy to see that as well. So that's awesome to see. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a pretty good SmackDown. I wasn't too disappointed.
Yeah,
a little bit of weird spots.
I would still probably give it like a B, just because I thought there weren't very many matches.
No.
And while the Fatal 4-Way was amazing, and if you can only watch one match from SmackDown this week, go watch that Fatal 4-Way tag match. It is so good. It is just, it would really benefit from no commercials. Here's the other thing. So Raw is going to Netflix, right? Raw's moving to Netflix next year. I hope that they will stay commercial free, because I know a lot of the platforms are now moving to having commercials. So I'm like, can you imagine having a Raw with no commercials on Netflix? That would just be so awesome. It would be so good. And I think eventually they're going to try to move everything over to Netflix at some point. It's kind of what the plan would be. But yeah, if you could get matches like that, I mean, the DIY Judgment Day match was commercial free, and it was fantastic. Yeah. If you could get matches like the Fatal 4-Way that were commercial break free with nonstop action, it's like just so good. But go back and watch that one. There's tons of great spots in it.
I love that.
The rest of the matches were kind of throwaways for me. Because I was like, Austin Theory was fine. It's good. Yeah,
that
he
was
had
really
that cool like flipping up blockbuster on Kevin Owens. That
Austin Theory is good. I was like, oh, he's good in the ring.
He's a good athlete.
He
does
really
a lot of really cool stuff.
He does a lot of great moves. I think what irked me so much about Logan Paul's promo is that, like, you fell for it. Like, he meant to have to get knocked out by the brass knucks. Like, you almost knocked me out. I'm like, bro, you were out cold. Like, typical like douchey thing to say.
And he and also he just says dumb things. Like he called Kevin Owens. He goes, "You look like a pissed off donut." And it's like, are you trying to be ironic, like ironically stupid, or are you just stupid?
you know where he gets his promos from? He gets them from Not Another Teen Movie, because he plays the D-bag role so well.
Yes, he does. Because I'm like, I can't tell if he's trying to sound stupid or if that's just the best thing that he can come up with, and he thought it was a real zinger. But yeah, I mean, he's going to be around for a while. Apparently, they think he's a draw, so he'll be here at least until WrestleMania. And we'll see who his mystery challenger is. That'll be interesting as well. But yeah, that's the week, everybody. That was the week on Raw and SmackDown. It was an interesting one. A lot of pivots and changes, so it will be interesting to see how this plays out over the coming weeks. And you can join us and find out more about that. Do you think we're wrong? Do you think we're off base? Do you have your own thoughts of your own? I'm sure you do. The world is an opinionated one, so we'd love to hear them. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you all again for all the support as well.
Yes.
We've had the channel continuing to grow. So we appreciate the time that you all take and look forward to continuing to provide the recap to all of you and continuing to grow and expand it. So thank you all again for the support. And I think that's what we got for today. So, Big D, I think that's it. We'll talk to everybody soon. Have a great rest of your day, and see you next week.